My name is Eric Martel, and welcome back to another episode of Break Away from the Rat Race. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Jesse Di Lillo, who is the CEO of JSJ Sustainable Investment. So they're an real estate investment company. They're currently investing in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and they're doing very well. And I just connected with Jesse a few days ago, and when he told me his story and what with his parents and how they got started into real estate investing, I thought it was a real inspiration, and I wanted to share that with you. And it's also a very interesting story. So Jesse, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit first about kind of like what you're doing right now in terms of real estate investment in the last couple of years, and tell us about Pittsburgh, why you invested in Pittsburgh and stuff like that.
All right. So right now we are focused mainly on the fix and flip market in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We chose Pittsburgh mainly because of the job growth in the area and in the fact that the four-year education rate has college education rate's gone up over 100% over the past 5 years. So that's increasing the education in the area, which in turn, higher paying jobs. So Pittsburgh in general put $2 billion into healthcare, into 3 new specialty hospitals from UMPC, who's the largest employer in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And then there's Carnegie Mellon, the artificial intelligence, as well as over 200 tech startup companies. You also have the big ones like Google, Facebook, Uber, Duolingo. They're all there. So clearly there's a lot happening in Pittsburgh. And that's really why
I didn't realize Duolingo was there.
Yeah, that's where their headquarters is.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So we chose the market based on job growth. We use a program called PropStream to help identify markets that are lucrative for investing. So one of the things that's on PropStream is you can see a heat map pretty much of where the price growth is. And month over month, year over year, we looked at different trends and decided that Pittsburgh was a really good market for us. So currently we work on fix and flip projects. We have private investors fund those deals either with checking savings accounts or self-directed IRA accounts. We can help them out anyway, and we pay anywhere from 8 to 12% depending on the size of the project.
Wow, that's very good. So have you looked at other markets beside Pittsburgh before investing there?
Yeah, we did. We actually had started the fix and flip process in California, where my parents were located at the time in Fresno, and there was just, the margins were not as good as the Midwest. So we've looked at markets in Cincinnati, Ohio. I have a couple of friends there. I actually lived there for 5 years.
Okay.
So I do have some connections in Cincinnati. We looked at Indianapolis, Memphis, where you invest, from a company called Memphis Invest that we almost bought a couple turnkeys from, but wound up heading a different direction.
Yeah.
And we're also looking at Florida. So Vero Beach is a really great area as far as like high-end listing goes, but with what's happening right now in the market, I don't know about luxury real estate, so we may stay away from that. We also have our tax lien business was started in Florida, so we have some property there. One specifically in Port Charlotte on a canal that we were looking at developing, and now probably going to head a different direction with that as well. Yeah, well, the Airbnb is what we wanted to do on it. Sleep anywhere from 10 to 15 people. The rates for those are over 200 a night. So we're looking at building something there. And then when my mom was ready to get out of California, she can go live there and retire. So
Airbnb, that's going to be difficult. Must be difficult for the people that really invested in that area.
Yeah, there's actually a guy I know here who was renting apartments specifically for that. So he got a penthouse in one of these new buildings and then 6 other units in the building, and now nobody's renting Airbnb. So
did he own the units, or he did rental?
He did a rental, so he's renting them. The building initially didn't want to have rentals in there. They didn't want you to do the short-term rentals, but they only had 40% occupancy. So he worked out a deal with them to rent 6 units and then the penthouse unit. But unfortunately,
So I know a couple of people here too that they do kind of like what they call the rental arbitrage. So they
Yeah.
basically rented an apartment and then post that on Airbnb and all that. And I mean, you're on the hook for the rent, and that so you have to talk to your landlord and say, I want to get out of that, or you had an agreement beforehand.
Yeah, hopefully you had something worked in there because I know each one of the 6 units is 3,500 a month. So I
Yeah,
don't know what the penthouse was, but I know I've looked at a couple of units just seeing what the rates were, and some of them are 7, 15, $20,000 a month. So
wow.
yeah, that could be really bad for his
Yeah.
whole business.
And I know that one of them, I think one of the investors that I talked to, like he had that in his rental agreement that if it didn't rent, then he was off the hook. Basically, he could basically kind of skip the month or do something else or back out of the lease altogether.
Yeah, that would be nice. Well, if you have a building like these brand new commercial buildings they're putting up, there's a rental shortage here in California,
Hmm.
especially in San Diego. There's a lot of units they're short on, but you can't afford the rents.
Yeah,
A lot of people can't afford to pay $3,500 a month for these apartments,
yeah,
and even studios over $2,500. That's not really solving the housing crisis here.
yeah,
So
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
if they head that different direction for
Yeah.
the Airbnb side, maybe they can at least get some income coming in.
Hmm. And right now we're just April 2nd, so started. Oh, you collect rent at all in Pittsburgh? You don't? You have any rentals in Pittsburgh?
We actually flipped our rentals, so we have one. Our last rental is now on the market, just
Okay.
listed a few days ago. So that
All right.
was the one where the tenant stole the kitchen.
Because right now we're in the process of collecting rent, and so far in Cleveland and in Memphis, so far so good with what's going on with COVID-19. We were afraid that people wouldn't have a job or something like that. We have reduced work hours, and then they wouldn't be able to pay rent. But so far so good. We'll see a little bit. We'll have more information next week.
Yeah.
Looking at that. So Jesse, tell me, let's go back and see kind of like what you got started. I think you're in a very good position right now. You have a lot of investment, a lot of experience. I think last year, how many projects did you do last year?
So we did 23 turnkeys with our old business partner, and then we transitioned out of that, and we started the fix and flips and had 4 going. Now we have, looking at my board, we have 3 going right now. We have one listed up in that northern market where we used to have our rentals and did the
Yeah.
turnkeys, and now we have another one that listed on Wednesday, joint venture agreement with a fellow Fortune Builder student
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
and a Fortune Builder lender too. So
Oh wow. The
yeah,
Grand Coast, is that the one or?
no, a private investor from
Okay. Wow.
Fortune Builders. So
Oh, I see. I see. Okay.
yeah.
Well, so that's yeah. So you're doing very well, and I think there are a lot of people that are really they want to be a successful investor like yourself, and so maybe we can go back and see kind of like where you got started, where you got the inspiration to go into the real estate business.
So it actually all started on a hockey trip when I was
Cool.
about 14, 15 years old. I saw this infomercial about tax lien investing,
Mm-hmm.
and every trip that we went away, I'd stay up too late watching these infomercials, and it was the same one over and over. And I finally convinced my parents to buy the program. They went out and we purchased the tax lien investing
Yeah.
strategy guide, whatever it was at the time,
Yeah.
and I wasn't able to start an LLC by myself. So again, I had to do some convincing and saved up all my money, and we put it into the tax lien business in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
We did that for quite a few years. It was very lucrative. Florida pays 18% uh,
Wow.
i- interest on those tax liens, so that was nice. We redeemed a couple. We mostly went after vacant land,
Mm-hmm.
with the hope that eventually, they'd either pay us back 18% or they'd, lose the land. So
Yeah.
we got a few of those, sold them to developers, but we really liked the idea of the whole fix and flip process.
Yeah.
So that's what my mom and I really enjoyed. Always everyone watching HGTV,
Mm-hmm.
they had heard a ad for Fortune Builders,
Yeah.
and decided to go to the 3-day event. I was still in school at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and then as soon as I graduated in 2016, we decided to go full in, join Fortune Builders, and launched our JSJ Sustainable Investments Company.
Okay.
We started here in California, and Fresno is where my parents were at the time. Started wholesaling and flipping, and then got into my father passed away, unfortunately, in 2017. So we kind of took a pause there and
Yeah.
decided, that we were going to head a different direction. I connected with an investor in Los Angeles through LinkedIn, who was doing the out-of-state turnkey model.
Yeah.
So we joined forces with him and partnered up to start that model over in Western Pennsylvania, where he had already done over 2,500 transactions. So that was the bread and butter in that area. Yeah, so that was a really, a good spot. But as we went there and saw it and were looking at the project, it just really wasn't exactly what we had wanted to do. The full gut renovations are a little bit more exciting, plus
Yeah.
the returns on them. Instead of spending 4 or 5 months on these, even the short ones, 30 to 60 days, you're only making maybe $10,000 to $15,000,
Yeah.
which for the time and effort and all of the paperwork that involves and the taxes, we decided let's shift the model. Let's go down into Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is about an hour and 15 minutes south of there,
Yeah.
where there's actually job growth. That Newcastle, Hermitage, Sharon market, it's decent cash flow on the properties, but unfortunately there's not a lot of jobs in the area. So we decided that really wasn't the best model for us. So we're trying to get rid of our last rental up there now, that we wound up flipping after the tenants destroyed it. So
Oh, really?
yeah, they stole our kitchen,
Oh, really? Wow.
cabinets, countertops, ripped the backsplash off, which took the wall as well.
Wow.
Appliances, everything. Left all their stuff though.
We had people steal the furnace, uh, in a furnace closet and stuff. They stole the whole furnace. I was like, wow, this is amazing. But stealing a kitchen,
The kitchen.
that's another level.
Yeah, well, they took the water meter. They shut off the gas and took the gas. We took all the meters. I guess they weren't
Wow.
going to pay their bills that month, and then disappeared. So we had bought the property sight unseen,
Yeah.
with the tenant in place. They lived there
Yeah.
7 years, raised the rent $25, and then never heard back from them.
Mhm.
And then by the time we got there, we realized why we didn't hear back from them. Clearly, they didn't want to pay the
Uh-huh.
extra $25.
Wow.
And again, another reason why we really didn't want to be in that area.
Yeah. And now, so yeah, let's go back to so tax lien. So you felt like it was when you start doing the tax lien. Obviously, it was good return, 18% return, and then on top of that, if you sell the land or something like that, some developers, I'm sure your return is probably even higher than.
Yeah, we got some of them for like $1,600 and sold them for
Yeah.
15 grand. So
So and then, but that model was a little bit too much spreadsheet.
it
And
was
then,
so long. I mean, you get a list from the county that's um, 1,500 properties, or that was my job, was to go through each one of them and identify the best candidates for us to go bid on, and then you'd have to fly down to Florida and do it in person.
oh, you
Um,
had to be there to.
yeah, you had to be there. So the time we decided that we had to shift models, we flew down there, and every property we wanted was overbid by a foreign investor.
Yeah.
The guy in the back of the room on the phone throwing his hand up for any time. So
Mhm.
we decided that this was no longer the model for us, and
Yeah.
let's move on to something that's more lucrative, that gets the return a little bit faster.
Yeah. And your goal right now is just basically, I mean, you're young, obviously, and I know your mother is involved as well
Hmm.
in the business and all of that. But your goal right now is to basically have like a flipped kind of business and then generate revenue like that. You have better returns than if you were to do, let's say, just the passive income. Is that the reason?
So I like this model, the fix and flip model, because we're going after 15+% returns.
Mhm.
Those are the properties that we're looking at. That's after the investors paid out their 8 to 12. So if we could continue to do properties like that,
Mhm.
and stack our capital up, I want to eventually move into the multifamily space.
Okay. Yeah.
So my goal for the end of this year is to take these 5 flips, take all of that income from it, and move it into a smaller apartment building,
Yeah. Yeah.
or mixed use building somewhere.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the monthly cash flow coming in, and we were excited when we started purchasing rentals as single families, but realized that instead of replacing one roof on a building, you're replacing 4 roofs on 4 different units. And
Yeah, and also the way the property is being evaluated or appraised is vastly different. And
yeah, exactly.
right, so I mean,
Based on
you can
ARVs
still
rather than
make it with
cap rate.
single family, right? I mean, it's a good way to get started,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
but yeah, definitely multifamily. That's where you want to go eventually. And this is what we tell our investors as well: is that yes, if you're new to this, just start with some turnkey rentals. Make sure you want to be a landlord and all of
Yeah,
that, right? Because there's some, it's not always, not always easy.
definitely not.
Then after that, once you build a little bit of a portfolio, then you can do an 1031 exchange
Hmm.
and then move it into a multifamily or do other types of investments. So yeah,
Yeah, I would really like to. I really want to take advantage of the cash out refi. So we were
mhm,
looking for a lot of value add, and we know we can turn the units around rather quickly
yeah,
with our 2 construction teams there. So um, as soon as we can get that new valuation, after even a year or less would be ideal to do the cash out refi on the new NOI. But
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then you can have non-recourse loan, and then you end up into completely different things as opposed to the residential piece. I mean, you can't really get like a non-recourse loan
no.
for these deals. So
And a lot of the times the bank doesn't really want to, the banks that we were working with didn't want to fund these smaller deals anyway. The smaller
yeah,
single families
yeah,
making under 75,000, they didn't want to touch, and that was really our bread and butter with the turnkey model. So
yeah,
we were having to find a lot of buyers that had cash instead of being able to finance, and that's why we're looking at possibly starting the turnkey model again, but in Pittsburgh, where the investors would at least be able to get financing on the homes and
yeah.
not have to use all cash.
hmm Yeah, for us, it took us a while to find a lender that was able to. Typically, our properties in Cleveland, they're 80 to $100,000. Similarly in Memphis, and what happened? Yeah, we had to find a lender that was willing to lend um, to investors for these kinds of prices. Yeah, typically it's very challenging if you're trying to get a lender for less than $100,000. They're not interested. Doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. So we were able to. It took a while, but we were able to find one lender, and now this is the lender that we recommend for.
Oh, that's
And we work pretty
fantastic.
closely. Yeah, we're pretty closely integrated with them. We don't get any referral fees or anything like that. For us, it helps us because the deal moves a lot quicker when they use that. They don't have to look for a lender. They don't have to call 100 lenders like we did.
Yeah. Well,
So
we found that hard money lenders are the only ones who would even, kind of touch those.
yeah.
And then they don't have the best terms, 9%
Yeah,
interest.
that's right. Yeah, so we never actually used. I talked to a bunch of hard money lenders for other deals when we were trying to do flips here in California, and yeah, I mean the terms were not really that good, and also how the funds were being dispersed was also not ideal.
Yeah.
So we didn't really like that. And then when you plug that into your model, it's yeah, it has a very negative impact on your return. So
Yeah. I mean, we've used hard money before. We actually have a hard money loan on one of the houses now.
yeah,
Um, we needed it quick, and our investors didn't have 400,000 sitting around at the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Now that we have more clients, obviously we would have done it that way.
yeah,
But yeah, it's the numbers definitely are a little tighter when you're dealing with them.
exactly. And now, so for that lender, they have to have like W-2 income. They have to have like 2 years of W-2 income.
Okay.
But then obviously we have some investors that don't have that, like you and I probably,
Mhm.
just like, oh, can't get a loan for some reason. But yeah, so we have then in that case we either send them to a non-qualified mortgage lender, or we do seller financing. So we have a few
Okay.
properties that we did seller financing, and that made a lot of sense for us because we end up having properties that's cash flowing. We don't have the property, but there's a positive cash flow and a good return on that cash flow because
Yeah.
of the amount of money we have left in the deal. And then the buyer, the investor, has a great return. We make sure that they have a great return as well, and so it just cuts the pie right in the middle in terms of returns for both the investors and ourselves. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I've seen. I was actually getting your emails before we ever
Oh,
talked about the turnkeys that you had available, and you guys really have a lot of good returns. So I like the model, and it'd be nice to duplicate in the markets that we're already set up.
yeah, I mean, we can definitely talk about that. Not on this call. But yeah, I mean, that's Pittsburgh has always been a very interesting market to me, so I really like it. Lots of investments, and as you mentioned, I mean, technology like Google, Facebook, and great university, and also great healthcare. These are the kind of thing that we're looking for. Also, when in the other markets, we're looking for business diversity. But there's a couple of sectors that we really like: healthcare, and then technology, and then the distribution and logistics. So FedEx, UPS, and everything that relies on the online industry,
Yeah.
Amazon. So we have in Cleveland, two of the areas that we investing in are actually Amazon distribution centers
Okay.
built there. And obviously in Memphis, we have FedEx with the big cargo area there, cargo airport.
Yeah, Amazon almost came to Pittsburgh, but they're in like the top 3 list for their new center as at last year, but they wound up losing to I think it was in New York they moved it to.
I think they moved to New York, and then I think I don't. They had a deal, and then I think there was something wrong with the deal, or
Yeah.
somebody was talking bad about Amazon, and then they held off. I think they're not doing it anymore, and I don't know if they're going where they're going. I don't
Oh,
remember.
hopefully Pittsburgh.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, Memphis, or
Yeah.
one of those.
Yeah.
So, any kind of word of advice that you would give to somebody that is started, like if you look back at when you started and you did your beginning training, after you move from tax lien to flipping and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of changes, right? I mean, you change your strategy from
Mhm.
tax lien investing out of state to flipping in California to like looking out of state, doing turnkey and rentals and all of that. So, any word of advice that you would give to people that are really interested in getting started in real estate?
Do a lot of research. Do a lot of research, and don't be afraid to pay for training either.
Mm,
Um, I think a lot of people they'll start out with something and not have the education to actually execute it right.
mhm.
So they may start buying properties out of state, but have no idea what to do after. Don't really know
Yeah.
tax laws. Don't have a LLC set up. I
Mhm.
think you have to take the right steps before you get started, and just continue to network and expand with people. I think it's better to joint venture on deals when you're starting. If you're a new investor, it, partner with somebody who's maybe more experienced.
Yeah.
Maybe you bring some extra funding, or and they bring the experience. I mean, we do that now with the joint venture we just listed.
Mhm.
Um, found She found the project. She was there on the ground, actually doing all of the work,
Yeah.
and we were just help guiding along the way, and also found the lender for it as well. So
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think. I think that. I mean, that's right. I think when people, especially at the beginning, I think people kind of get distracted. There are so many different ways to invest in real estate.
yeah,
And then it seems that the more you learn about the different ways, the more exciting the next one is. And then you just keep switching from one to the next. And but you can make money in every one of them.
yeah, absolutely.
So anybody that is listening or interested in real estate investing, you should really dive in and then focus on something that you're really interested in, and as you suggested, also get the knowledge that you need to be successful in there. This is key. And then if you don't have the knowledge or the access, then partner up with somebody, do a joint venture, or find somebody you're just gonna create a company together.
Exactly.
And and then really fine tune that strategy, and and make sure that it makes money and stuff like that. You can make some adjustments, some tweaks and stuff like that, but don't abandon it too quickly.
No, definitely not.
That's my recommendation. And then kind of like adjust the market, change the market, change the type, your investment criteria, change this, change that, and stuff like that. Still the same kind of strategy. Find maybe other resources if you identify some gaps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
like work that strategy to its limit.
Yeah, there's a lot of I see a lot of investors who get like shiny object syndrome.
Yeah,
They say, "Oh, this person made 40%, so I
yeah,
got to do what they're doing." And
yeah,
it's like
exactly.
you have to focus on your first business. So we built our first company as the tax lien company. We built the second business as the fix and flip business. I
Mhm,
started another company this year for here in San Diego and in Arizona doing wholesaling.
mhm,
Those are specific things, but we're already have the expertise in the other one. It's already set up. The model's already there.
yeah,
Um, and it's operating already before we jump ship onto something else. And as
mhm,
soon as we're ready to invest in the commercial space, we're going to start another LLC
yeah,
and lend the money from the one company to the other to buy the property.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean that's exactly that's what I found, especially when some of the programs like the one you mentioned, there's all these different courses and so, oh, I want to do wholesaling, I want to do flip, I want to do commercial, I want to do
Yeah,
so there's a lot of distractions. And similarly, I think when you talk to investors, I think investors, a lot of investors, I mean, this is a great community, I think, a lot of investors are more than open to talk about the type of investments they do, how they're doing it, how you know they share a lot of information, and they're willing to share a lot of information. But some of that information, it really depends on your strategy and your capabilities. What are the
exactly.
resources that you have available? What's available to somebody in a market, and they do a killing, they're doing a great job and great investment. It may not be something that's accessible to you.
Exactly.
And it was kind of like that when we started flipping here in California. I mean, it was pretty obvious. I mean, every time we were putting an offer and stuff like that, and then we would get shut down. The offer that was actually accepted was, way higher than our break, or it was at our break-even point,
Yeah.
something like that, or even higher than our break-even point. So, of course, it didn't make any sense for us to invest, and risk all that money to make 0%. Um, but it was pretty obvious that there was some people that was a profitable business because they had more resources, they had more money, they had a construction crew, they didn't have to pay commission from realtors and stuff like that. So
Yeah. I think it's important to just really streamline what you're trying to do and then,
mm,
pick the strategy best and not keep running around because it's never going to once you're an expert in something and that's working, then go to something else,
yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
like you're saying in California, the same thing with us, the returns didn't make sense.
Hmm.
We're not using our own money, we're using investors' funds and we're paying a return on that. So if there was 12% available in the deal and you were paying an investor 10, we're not going to do it for 2%. So
Yeah,
we were forced to kind of shift our thinking and our model.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But I think, yeah, and so just to close on that, maybe is like, yeah, you want to but you want to have to dive deep enough to say, okay, well, and really look at the problems, look at the gaps or the issues, and then say, okay, well, I think we need to do this, we need to change market, or we need to tweak the strategy, or we need to find a partner, or but really,
Absolutely.
right, so kind of work it out that way.
Yeah.
So that's good, very good. So right now you're looking for investors to work with you on some projects in Pittsburgh. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
You're
we
always looking.
use all we're always looking for new investors and we're always looking for new projects. We
Uh-huh.
put in 6 offers today on properties. We have private investors lined up for a couple of them,
Oh, very good.
but depending on how they go, so
Yeah,
we'll see with that. But Mostly what we try to do is place people's funds that really don't know what to do with them.
Yeah,
Leaving it in the market isn't really the best, obviously, right now.
yeah,
If you have a self-directed IRA and you're not investing it in something that's returning you, 8% plus, then you really should be putting that money in other places.
yeah,
Um, a lot of our investors have either done it on their own, they've done their own flipping, um, or they're just tired. They don't have the time. They have a full-time job. If
yeah,
you're working a 9 to 5, it's hard to flip houses.
yeah.
For us, I left my job in 2017, and I haven't really had to worry about it.
Mhm.
So
And your mother is working full time or was working full time or?
she was when my father passed.
Okay.
She was working in the school district,
Oh, okay.
um, and then we decided to do the real estate full time. So
Mhm.
she does our book. She's an ex-accountant, so
Yeah,
that
yeah. Oh,
that really helps. And then obviously, the woman's touch on the design always helps too, for
mhm.
selling the homes.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. Do you have to fly? So a lot of people are asking about out of state. When you do these kind of out of state investments, you're doing flips and all of that. Do you have to fly to Pittsburgh on a regular basis, or?
yeah, we do. So when we first started, we were out there a lot more. Now we go about once a quarter, but
Oh,
that was to build the teams. So I
yeah,
think you have to be present on the ground to build the teams, otherwise they
mhm,
take advantage of you.
yeah.
So we
But
we
now
just
you're only going there like once a quarter, so that's
yeah.
really not that bad.
No, and if we get a big project, like we're looking at a condo project that's going to be in the $600,000 range, so that's
Mhm.
something that
Yeah,
we're going to fly out and look at and make sure,
yeah, yeah,
before
yeah.
before we put anyone's money on the line.
Yeah, and for us, it's kind of the same too. Like it was important at the beginning to build the team, make sure that everything was okay. But after that, right now we're just flying there basically to meet the team, not to
Hmm.
go see the projects. So you just what's happening, tweak the process, tweak the because we have like a property management company that we're partnering with in Cleveland and one in Memphis. So just building the team, building the interaction and the process, make sure that everything is efficient and effective. And then after that, it's we go there when it's multifamily, when it's an apartment
Okay.
building. We go there for due diligence, and because that's obviously a bigger investment.
Yeah,
But,
even the smaller ones, I do like to see the projects. I
mm,
used to do construction myself, though it was always my summer job
oh
between
yeah,
between hockey and then, um, in college, the same thing.
hmm,
So I was in all different aspects of construction. So I do like to go see it and, make sure that the bids are as accurate, as they are on paper.
yeah,
You just got to check in. We got taken on a couple projects when we had first started that turnkey model up north,
yeah,
by bad contracting relationships. So
yeah,
once you lose enough money in that, you want to you make sure you're more on top of it. So
yeah,
and that's a lot of lessons learned. It's just taking the time, to do it. You learn a
mhm,
lot of hard lessons along the way, and
yeah,
you hopefully avoid the big mistakes by the education. So
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we saw a lot also of like new investors, people that come out of the programs, any kind of education programs for real estate investment, and then they end up. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have somebody else to look at your deal and
yeah,
make sure that it's okay, and that the numbers make sense, and that your ARV has been calculated properly. We saw a lot of people that they completely overestimated the ARV, and
yeah.
then you end up that you can't make your numbers.
A lot of people run best case scenario, and that
Yeah,
to me is I'm running worst case on everything.
yeah,
We get the CMA from the realtor to confirm our ARV. We pull our ARV, straight through PropStream off of
yeah,
public data, MLS data. So,
yeah,
there's no need to have uh, there's no need to be guessing on your ARVs. That needs to be confirmed. And
yeah.
since we're working in specific neighborhoods, we kind of know what it's going to sell for. We know
Yeah,
the price.
now it's a lot easier. We work in
Yeah,
a very specific neighborhood, so we know exactly. And a lot of that, we do so many deals that most of the time the comps are our comps. They're our
yeah.
house that we just sold. So that helps quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to set up more in Pittsburgh now is instead of working in all these different neighborhoods, let's streamline the focus specifically around the new hospitals is where I like to be. And then we're the younger generations moving because you're having people
Yeah.
move from Silicon Valley that worked for Google that were making, $300,000 up in Sacramento or San Francisco
Hmm.
and had a $2 million house, and then they're
Yeah.
buying a house that's even bigger and nicer in Pittsburgh for
Yeah.
500. So
That's right. Now that the stock is down, so they may, if they were thinking of buying a house in the Bay Area, they may think again and say, "Well, I
yeah,
have the cash now to buy the property." So then maybe moving out would be. I mean, you can definitely get a much better house in Pittsburgh or out of state than you can here. That's for sure.
yeah. Well, you can get. You should see some of the new construction there. Homes that in California that would be like $2, $3, $4 million house, and then there it's under $1 million. And there.
Yeah, but there's snow there, right?
Yeah, it snows there.
Yeah, yeah, I'm allergic to snow.
I'm sure you had dealt with enough of that when you were in
Well, yeah,
Montreal.
I grew up in Quebec, so I know too much about snow that I can't live. I don't want to live there. That's it. Um, but there was also we mentioned about the ARV and stuff like that, and so at the beginning, so often, yeah, you kind of get in a situation where you kind of like overestimate the ARV. We had
Mhm.
another situation for us. We were overly cautious where we were, you were talking about like always doing the worst case scenarios and stuff like that. And for us, yeah, we were just like, we were very, very tough on the ARV and all of that and worst case estimate and contingency on it and stuff like that. And we ended up that we didn't we couldn't pull the trigger on anything because
Yeah.
it was just no deals was really that good and all of that. So finding a balance. It's better to go worst case scenario than optimistic, obviously, because
Oh yeah, absolutely.
but at least find a balance and find an adjustment and to kind of like make sure that you have the right deals in your in your hopper.
Yeah, you don't want to. I feel like when we started the flipping, at least we were extremely cautious. I mean, we were throwing in like 20% contingency. Like, what
Oh,
if, what if, what if? And it's
yeah.
you never pull the trigger on anything, and then your
Exactly. Yeah.
offers are
Yeah.
too low, and
Yeah.
it took a lot more experience, a lot more walking through the properties, dealing with the right agents on the ground, and
Yeah.
really figuring out the numbers and um, having a system together. I
Yeah.
mean, I have 5 different categories for the house, and that's what it goes in, and that's what it's going to cost per square foot.
Yeah.
We know that right away. So if we walk through a
Okay.
2,000 square foot house, we're doing a full gut, higher end renovation. It's going to be $100 a square foot. So I know the renovation is going to be 200,000.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
It's just much easier to evaluate deals that way.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah,
we've
for
even
sure.
done it now. I mean, we have a property in Lawrenceville in Pittsburgh that we ran the numbers at 460 ARV, and looking at what's sold around it now, some things over 700. We decided halfway through the project we were going to upgrade it, so we put
Wow.
another 30,000 in the renovation, and we're looking at ARVs around 599 now. So
Wow. Wow.
a big jump.
That's
Um,
a good
but
return on $30,000.
yeah, exactly. And that's just upgrading, putting in
Yeah.
commercial appliances.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of doing cheaper facade on the outside, we did stucco.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it provides a little bit more insulation, which is good down there in that area.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nicer floors and everything. It's just upgrading. We added a coffee bar, a wine bar, um, nice shower room in the master. So like, minor adjustments. Like I said,
Yeah. Yeah.
$30,000 change can make a huge difference. So
Yeah, that's good. Very good. Yeah, it's nice that you have the flexibility to kind of like do that when you see kind of like how the market is, or or when you see kind of like the opportunity and you
yeah.
can make the adjustment as you're going through.
Yeah, the new construction really helped there. So the new construction selling in the sevens. I mean, we went down to the studs. We actually reframed it because we found out it was hit by a bus in the 70s.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That one.
yeah, that one. Then we had to redo the foundation, everything. Yeah,
Mm,
it was a
wow.
fun house.
Yeah.
waiting on the final inspections, actually. So that's what we're with the city being shut down.
Yeah. Wow.
We're in an interesting time.
Yeah, hopefully that's gonna get resolved soon, or or at least if they would get some of the inspectors out and stuff like that.
I just talked to our inspector today. They were originally supposed to be back on the 7th. Now they're going on the 30th.
Oh.
So another month of interest we're paying, but
yeah,
it's not killing the returns. So
okay. Well, Jesse, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I think it's thank you for sharing your story and your experience. I was wondering if you had like any kind of like books, things that really kind of inspire you, or that have inspired you to go on this real estate investment track.
Well, obviously, Rich Dad Poor Dad is that was been a major book for most real estate investors. I read a lot of Grant Cardone's like sales books and commercial real estate investing. I have a whole pile of books over here. The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy was good. Leading with Vision. That's a good book. The E-Myth. Anyone.
Oh yeah, E-Myth. Yeah, I did
had read that. I'm actually reading. This is the one I'm on now. Big Shifts Ahead.
Oh yeah, I read that one. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's very good. Yeah.
I just like to educate myself on different forms of investing and the economy and what's going on. So, really, yeah.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a good rest of the day.
You too. Happy we got to do this.
Yeah, me too. Have a good day.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I appreciate it. You have a great day.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you for listening to Break Away from the Rat Race with your host, Eric Martel. If you want to share your story and experience with our listeners, please message us on Facebook at Break Away from the Rat Race. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast on iTunes.